Hello, welcome everybody. We are on week 4 of the series Keep the Change, where we are investigating finances, money, stewardship, anything related to money. And today, if you're watching, you're probably part of a Connect group, and you are doing this as part of your Connect group meeting. Can I encourage you, if you are not in a Connect group, it would be really good if you got involved to be able to discuss these kind of topics and really share with other people about their journey in their faith with God is an incredible way to grow, and it's really God's plan for us. So I encourage you, get involved with the Connect group. It would be great to do. So our anchor text today is Psalm 24 verse 1, and I'm going to read it for us. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. And so if you look at your books, you'll see that we're going to see and going to look at how everything we have belongs to God. And our task is to steward what He entrusts to us. And so those are the missing words in your book. So for me personally, the story of Job is an incredible story, and it was where my journey in stewardship really started. Now, for those of you maybe aren't familiar with Job, in Job chapter 1, we meet this farmer Job, and he's an incredibly wealthy man. In today's terms, he would be incredibly wealthy, not only in the times that he lived. He had over 7,000 sheep. He had 500 spans of oxen. He had donkeys. He had 7 sons and he had 3 daughters. And he was a man who served God wholeheartedly. And within the space of a very short piece of time, disaster besets his life. He loses every bit of his livestock to raiders. He loses his children to an accident. And people come just bringing him bad news. Now, make no mistake, Job was not delighted by the news. The Bible tells us that he did. He tore his clothes, wore sackcloth and ashes. But he said this thing, which is just incredibly powerful and sums up his attitude. It says, "Naked I came into this world, naked I will leave. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And for me, that was where my journey of stewardship really came, because if a man with that kind of wealth could start to understand that everything God had given him and he was just using it, for me it was an incredible journey, and it was an attitude that really challenged my lifestyle. So in my own journey, a number of years ago, I had an experience where our business had done exceptionally well. Our financial director paid out a significant sum of money. And yet at that time, I had 2 family members, both on my wife's side and on my side, who were in need of financial support. And people who had been faithful to God, who had prayed for us as a family, and God laid on our hearts to sow into those circumstances for no return. And initially it was quite a challenge, because you go through the mind, what is it that these things could be done? How could that be used in my own environment? But it amazingly got to a point of revelation for me, that the exceptional privilege was that God would use me in my circumstances to sow into another believer's circumstances. And so it was really a journey of joining in what God was doing in meeting someone else's need. And so we were in the incredible position to be able to sow to meet the circumstances in other people's lives. And that's the journey that God really wants to take us on. So 1 Chronicles 29:14 reads this: "Everything comes from you, and we have only been given what comes from your hand." And so those are the missing words in your textbook. And so there's 3 things to note in this passage of Scripture. 1, everything that we have belongs to God. And that's really summed up very well in Job's idea. But can I suggest it's not just money? It's your talents, it's your possessions, it's your time. Those things all belong to God, and there's an opportunity to steward them well for Him. Secondly, we're not called to be owners, but we're called to be stewards. Now, during the course of my day-to-day, I operate as a trustee on many trusts. And invariably, I have to make decisions for other people related to money based on the direction of another. Invariably, somebody who's no longer around. And the difference between an owner, you get to decide how you spend your resources based on what your desires are. But a steward is quite different, because you consider what the requirements and the objectives of the other person for whom you're stewarding, and make a decision based on that, knowing that on one day you would give an account. And so one day we will give an account for everything that we have, and with what God gives us, He requires accountability. And so there's this very different thing between stewardship and ownership. And when we start to consider the Father's plans, the Father's objectives, the Father's overall kingdom purpose, then we start to steward the time that we have, the resources that we have in a different way. And then thirdly, God delights to entrust us and to partner with us with what He's given us. And so I like to use the example of, I have 2 adult children, and my wife and I have been privileged enough to give them their own cars to achieve some of the things that they are doing. They're not independent of us yet, so we have to provide for those vehicles. We have to pay the maintenance and the petrol, etc., etc. But it really is for them to use. And it's a delight for us as parents to entrust those vehicles to them. But there are times that we ask them to do favors for us. Won't you go and collect this? Won't you go and buy that? Won't you use your vehicle for this? And it's exactly the same. As parents, we're delighted to entrust the vehicles to our children. And it's the same thing. God really wants to go in a partnership with us in this area of stewardship. So please enjoy your time now discussing as part of a group. And I trust that you will grow in this area of stewardship and be blessed as you partner with God with your resources. Thank you for joining us.